All right, so welcome back to another week, right, of school. It's been 2 weeks since we last spoke in a live class, anyways, because we had the little Labor Day weekend. Hopefully, you guys did some stuff fun. But as I said, we only have 25 minutes, but I can stay after class to speak to you about whatever you guys would like in regards. But as of right now, we're just going to kind of get to the meat and potatoes, maybe you'd say, of the class. So a couple things here real quick. We're going to be going over today how to pay for college, and then also we'll talk briefly about financial institutions, more along the lines of credit unions and banks. And actually, they're coming out with a whole bunch of new financial institutions that are not approved. Like, if anybody has heard of like the Apple, it's kind of like Apple Pay, but you have a credit card to it and everything. They have that. Venmo's getting pretty big. So there's a lot of things, but those are not banks. So they don't have the assurances that some of the like credit unions and stuff do, but they're a place to keep your money. So there's a trend that's going away from that. Okay, let's start rolling here real quick. Where you should be, okay? You should have finished up on lesson 4, okay? So lesson 5 actually is due this week, okay? So this is what's upcoming in the weeks to come. So lesson 6, 7, and then all of those quizzes need to be done each of those sections there, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about how do you pay for college, okay, or some post-education. We had some people that said they wanted to go to the tech college. We were speaking before there. What are some of your guys' ideas? What are you going to do after high school, okay, other than work? Are you going to try to get some type of certificate? Are you going to get all kinds of stuff? What are some things you're going to do? Put that out there on the chat real quick. Okay, go to nursing school. Very good. That's good. That will be some expense, right? Okay, some people are saying you've finished with the class and stuff. That's great. Just keep if you're done, then you're done. That's awesome. You got your grade, you're good to go. And there is a little bit extra credit at the end of class today that you could do if you want to. Okay, school, if you know what type of school. Anybody else doing anything, okay? So most jobs are going to require some type of skill to learn, right? Whether it's coding for computers, whether it's nursing, whether it's some type of education, but it costs money to get that, okay? Your public education is only free in K-12, okay? So kindergarten through 12th grade. After that, you got to start paying for it, okay? And it can get expensive. Some places, really prestigious schools, are all the way up to $50,000 a semester, okay? Others are, I think Weber State's maybe $3,500 or $4,000 a semester, which is still quite a bit of money, okay? So you got to find a way to pay for that. So different ways of funding for college. Here is in 2015, this is what they said a lot of people paid for. So scholarships and grants, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about those today, about how to get those. But 30% of them came from that, okay? Relatives and friends, being able to have them kind of help out. Student borrowing, that means getting student loans and being able to do that. Parent borrowing, so borrowing from there. And 11% was student income and savings, and the other one, that one's actually supposed to be working while going to school, okay? And so you actually work as you're going through there to pay it off. And sometimes you can get some reimbursement a little bit if you work for the college that you possibly go to. So that's an option too. Okay, so as we talked about all these different ones, you have veteran benefits. So if you're part of the military, you after so many years, I believe you qualify for schooling to get that paid for. Some employers, right, will pay for that. Tuition waivers, different kind of things like that, grants, scholarships, which we're going to go over. So the biggest thing to get that we try to get every student to do before they graduate is fill out, and your counselors are probably going to try to do this, is called Federal Student Aid, okay? Another word for is FAFSA, okay? And so what that is it's where you submit who you are. Basically, you put in your different demographics. You'll need your social security number, that kind of stuff. And you file through a federal website, and that federal website can give you quite a few different things, okay? One, it can give you a scholarship, or sorry, a grant is what it's called. Let's talk about grants first. So a grant is money that you get from the federal government that says, hey, you get, and I've got some grants before, and I got up to like $3,000, I think, one semester. And that would go towards my tuition. It'd go directly to the school and goes toward tuition for my to get my college paid for. And so this works with the ATC too. It doesn't mean you have to go to some university, but you can go to the technical college, the community college. All of those have FAFSA that are in them. Okay, if you are a senior, okay, I know I have quite a few seniors in here. So somebody said my sister got $7,000 for books and stuff like that. Yeah, so it depends on how you do it. If you're living on campus, it may actually pay for like some of your living expenses, okay? Some other things that will give you, it'll say, hey, you got a grant for this much. You can take this much out like in a student loan, okay? Now, I'd be a little weary of student loans because they have a higher interest rate and you have to pay them back, but they do defer that payment, so you don't have to pay it while you're in college, but 6 months after you're out of college, you have to start paying that back, okay? I actually have some friends that are doctors that are in over hundreds of $1,000s in student loan debt, okay? So it's okay if you're becoming a doctor because you're probably going to make that back and pay it off. However, if you're in another profession that doesn't make that much, you're probably not going to want to go spend your money. A thing to do that some people do is they'd get out their student loan and spend the money on on spring break and go to Cancun or something, okay? So you want to make sure you spend it on what it is. And if you don't get that education, I have another friend that I think he was about $15,000, $20,000 in student loan debt, and he never finished college, and so he basically got nothing he just has a bunch of debt he has to pay off, okay? So you got to be careful with it, okay? So some things that you'll need a FAFSA ID. So if you are under 18 and you are still, or you're still under your parents' household or guardian's household, you need both guardian and student ID to apply for this, okay? The earlier you do it, the better. Then you kind of know what you're going to be getting, and they know how much funds they're going to give out. Okay. Thought I clicked that. Okay. So FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal and Student Aid, and you go to www.fafsa.gov. And as you go it'll pop up some page that looks like this, okay? And so what you'll do is you'll go and you'll start a new FAFSA account, and you have to do this. One thing is, it's important, you actually have to do it every year because you have to re-qualify for it every year. And it's really based, as I said, you kind of go through this process, get your IDs. You have to put in like your social security number, all that kind of stuff in order to try to get this this stuff. You can also go to these different websites to help you learn more about FAFSA and the different things on there, because they'll give you a lot of different options too. Like they'll give you a Stanford student loan, which basically means that the interest is paid and you do not have to pay interest while you're doing it. It doesn't accumulate, but sometimes it does accumulate while you're still going to school. So for example, if you go to school for 10 years, you still have interest building towards that loan. If you do not, it may not. So it really kind of depends on there, okay? So it's something each of you will want to look at. Now, you're going to give a lot of different information, okay? And it does a little bit depend off your parents' income about how much you get. So somebody says they want to win the lottery to pay my bills. That would be cool, but it's more likely you're going to have to work for a while. So anyways, so you're going to want to keep continuing to kind of work through that. So here is kind of an extra credit assignment. Somebody was talking about extra credit at the very beginning. So your extra credit is, if you want to, you can fill out a FAFSA form, and what you do is you take a picture or screenshot of the last page, or you can have your parents email me from their email, not yours, and say, hey, I went over FAFSA with them and what we want to do, because really some people agree with it, some people don't, but it's a really good way to pay for college and to kind of help you out there. Now there's a lot of different other ways to kind of pay for it, like scholarships. There's so many different scholarships out there. Everybody thinks of the big ones, but there's little $500 ones, $1,000 ones. Every little bit helps when you're trying to pay that money. You know, when you have $3,500 to $4,500 3 times a year, 2 or 3 times a year, you have to pay for to get done with school, okay? And that usually lasts for about 4, 5, 6 years. So that's something to start thinking about right now, talking to your parents about. So that's why I'm giving you extra credit to go over that FAFSA with them. Okay, so any questions in regards to how you get student aid, how that works? So just fill that out with our parents and then have them email saying you went over it. Yeah, so if you're not a senior, right, you can't really do it until okay, yeah, so you can't really do it until you are a senior. Okay, yeah, so the filing period, I believe, is, let's go back here, what was it, October? So seniors can file October 1st, okay? So you can't even file yet for it, but you're pretty soon. But if you want extra credit, I just want you to talk to your parents about it and have them email me saying they talked to you about it. That's what I'll give you extra credit for, okay? Some of my other classes, those that are seniors, that I'd love for them to do it, because then you know that they can actually see how much they're going to get towards college. And really, some of it will pay for the entire thing, right? So somebody, I think it was you, Cameron, said you wanted to go to the ATC. So a lot of times they'll pay for that entire program, right? And you don't have to pay anything for it. And so get that skill, get that trade. Instead of making $10 an hour, you're sitting there making $20 an hour because you have that skill. So I think you can kind of see the benefit there, at least hopefully you do. Okay. All right. Any other questions about the FAFSA, student aid, trying to pay for college? Quiet class, quiet class. Okay, cool. All right, let's go over different financial institutions. As I said, there's kind of being a pushback in a lot of different areas in, I think, the financial world, which I think is a good thing, but some people have their own thoughts about it. So for example, like if you got into real estate, you may have noticed like the whole homey thing, right? Where you're not going to pay an agent 6% to sell your home. So you kind of have that. You also have different places popping up, like what is it called? Venmo, right? Which is kind of a thing right there. You also have Apple, like the whole Apple thing that I was telling you about. I saw that as a commercial, that you keep your money in the Apple account, which isn't a bank, but it's some type of money market that you can kind of put it into. PayPal is kind of the same thing, but it's starting to go that direction where they're going away from bigger institutions. But that's what we deal with right now, are bigger institutions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys access to the whiteboard here, okay? And I want you to type or put on here what the difference is between a bank and a credit union, okay? So take some time, grab those things right on the board here of the difference that you know between a bank and a credit union. Then we'll go over those real quick. Bank and a credit union. Okay, use the whiteboard, guys. It's the difference between the bank and a credit union. The difference between a bank and a credit union. Even if you have to guess, it's okay. Or even, this is what I'll do, if you don't know the difference, okay, what I want you to do is put different credit unions that you know and different banks that you know, the different ones. So if you don't know the difference, just put what credit unions that you've heard of before, okay? And what banks have you heard of? Very good. I'll give you guys another minute or so. So if you don't know the difference, just type in banks that you know of and credit unions that you know of. There's so many of them out there, it's just crazy. So I could list off probably 15 of them right now. Okay, we'll give you about 15 more seconds to write some more things. So I don't know if you heard what I said, Joshua. So with filling it out, if you're not, so what I'm going to do is, like, I just want you to talk to your parents or your guardian about FAFSA, and they can email me saying that they did it, and then I'll give you extra credit. Cool. All right. Okay, let's talk about these. What's kind of put on here? Very good. So the difference between bank and credit union. So credit union, I'd like this one. Somebody put you're an owner. Okay. So yeah. So credit unions are not publicly traded, which means they're not like a company. It's like whoever is in it owns it. So you actually own part of the credit union when you become a member. Okay. And so you would actually get dividends, I guess is what it's called. So money at the end of it, and usually you get that just kind of an interest rate or interest rates there. You don't get very much though. I'm going to be honest. Okay. Some person said credit unions usually have lower interest rates. That's correct. So credit unions have fees. They do have some fees. Banks do have more fees, okay, than a credit union. Okay, so somebody put on a bank there like U.S. Bank. Okay, very good. Somebody put America First Credit Union. Some other ones that are around, you got like Mountain America Credit Union, Cyprus Credit Union. Let's see here, Golden West Credit Union. There's a lot around here. Banks. You got the big people. Okay, like Wells Fargo is huge. You got Chase Bank. You got oh geez, U.S. Bank. Let's see here. Man, there's a lot of them, but they're the big companies that seem to run everything. Okay, and so they have a lot of money and kind of backing there. So you can take out loans at each of them. But the good thing about, I guess, a bank, right? A bank is actually, you'll have more if you're traveling a lot. So like America First, if you go back east, you're not going to find America First, right? But if you go over to Europe and you have Wells Fargo, you're going to be able to find a place that will be able to exchange it for Wells Fargo. So that is kind of a helpful thing too there. And both of them are what's called FDIC approved, which basically means that the government backs the money that you put in there, okay? So if there was something to happen and that bank went under, the government would basically make sure you get that money back. So that's why it's important to kind of, people like putting the surety of putting it into a bank or a credit union rather than something like the Apple system that's up right now, or all their money in Venmo or whatever, okay, or in cryptocurrency or Robinhood, these kind of newer things that are coming out. But those are becoming more and more popular too. Okay, so here are some other ones that I probably couldn't remember. So Far West Bank, SunFirst Bank, State Bank of Southern Utah, First Security, U.S. Bank, Zions Bank, Heritage Bank, okay. And then I think I had some credit unions over here. Maybe I don't. Far West Bank, Central Bank, here's some other ones going forth there. All right. Yeah, that's fine if you need to do. So here's some other things. So checking accounts versus savings accounts, okay? So this is something you want to know. So checking accounts usually have a monthly fee to them. A minimum daily balance. Sometimes you have free checkings out there too, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. You get interest. So if you keep a lot of money in there, you're going to get a little bit of money back each month. Usually it's only pennies on the dollar that you get. Overdraft protection. So if you go over your balance, you have ATM fees if you're going to pull something out. You get internet banking, which I really like, so I can transfer money to different people, that kind of things, which makes it helpful. Online bill pay, and then also other kind of services. Savings account, you usually have to have a minimum amount of money in there to be able to have it. You get interest as well. You can write checks from there. You always have ATM fees, that kind of stuff. But the biggest one, the checking, is you have like overdraft protection and that kind of stuff. Okay. So how many of you have a bank account? Some type of bank account. You do? Okay, yep, you can raise your hand. Alright, quite a few do. Awesome. Yeah, so hopefully you can know the difference between them. You may have got like a debit card. So debit card's what pulls out of your checking account there. Goes from there. Okay. All right. Well, that leads us to the end of everything today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the slides, and then for those that missed it, I'm going to go back to the one slide about extra credit. So, and I'm just going to explain this one more time. So if you go and talk to your parents about FAFSA, now those that maybe showed up a little bit late, so FAFSA is federal aid that you can get in order to pay for college or ATC, that kind of stuff, some post-training. If you fill that out with your parents, you can get grants, you can see how much you can borrow, you can do a lot of things. So we want everybody to kind of at least talk to your parents about it and see what would be a good option for you, okay? If you do that and have them email me saying you did it, you get 25 extra credit points, okay? All right, so that leads us to the end of the time. We are up almost past our 25 minutes. So I'm going to shut down the recording, but I'll stay around for a little bit to answer any questions you guys may have. So thanks.
Recording.